Welcome to School Zone, the podcast of the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. I'm Brent Bushy, and really excited to welcome Bernhardt here.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. So Kurt is our brand new. I don't know if you're still brand new. We're recording this now. Is this
2
your
weeks
second?
in. This is my third week.
This is your
Starting
third
my
week. Okay, cool. Kurt comes to us from the State Department, was Director of Education Technology, and we're going to take today as a chance to talk about sort of Kurt's vision for working with schools and different ideas and thoughts. But before we get into all of that, first, Kurt, tell us, who is Kurt Bernhardt? Where'd you come from? How'd you get here?
I've lived in Oklahoma all my life. Grew up in Midwest City. I was a Midwest City Bomber many years ago. Live in Choctaw now with my wife and 3 sons. My wife is a third grade teacher at James Griffith in Choctaw. My 3 boys, I've got a 19-year-old who's at Rose State College right now studying cybersecurity. And I've got twin 13-year-olds. They're finishing up 8th grade and ready to head to the high school.
I forgot you have twins. Are they fraternal or identical?
No, fraternal.
Fraternal, okay.
Yep.
I am also a fraternal twin, so I don't know if you knew that. So.
Okay. I didn't know.
He's nothing like me. You don't have to worry about it. So
Okay.
we were the best of friends, and
one of my 13-year-olds and my 19-year-old are
they're very close.
Yeah, very close. So
that's how my twin brother was closer with my younger brother growing up. What's weird is now I'm probably closer with my younger brother. I don't know. They work together, so they both call and complain to me about each other's, which is kind of fun. So
interesting. Yeah.
Well, cool. So you get kids, and then tell us your career path. How did you? Because you're not really a technophile, at least at your core, right?
I've had technology ever since I was a young preteen.
That's right.
I've been programming computers forever. Then I went to OSU, got a degree in marketing. Went to OU, got my MBA, and then headed off to work for-profit companies. Worked there for 10 years in marketing. Then moved on. Next 10 years was basically nonprofit. That's where I got involved heavily in web design and web programming, and was doing technology from then on out. Then went to the State Department of Ed. A little story behind my State Department of Ed visit or career. Started off actually with my now 19-year-old Camden. He went to Career Tech for a career day, and they were using technology in their classrooms and using it a lot more than I had seen it being used in technology in school. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I believe in technology. I use technology all the time, hardly ever without it. And I think it can be used for education. So I was like, okay, I need to take my technology skills and use them to focus on education. And so then I immediately started looking at the State Department of Ed website and checking out jobs. And it took a little while. I actually almost was a teacher at the Career Tech. They were needing a web development teacher.
Okay.
But then the State Department of Ed had a position open, and it's like, okay, here's where I get involved with education. So
cool, very cool.
So,
yeah, because all right. So let me just ask you the question I probably should have asked a long time ago. Why the heck did a guy that's focused on technology get a marketing degree?
Good question. Really, basically, technology. This was back in the '80s when I was determining a career path. And back then, when it was technology, it was basically if you're going to be a computer programmer, you're learning how to program COBOL. You're sitting in some back office because this
big
was before
mainframe server area.
Yeah. Before the internet, technology was just kind of this backroom thing. Marketing's also very interesting to me. I've always been a kind of a how do you market things? How do you make somebody interested in a product? It's kind of the psychology of business. Basically, has always interested me. So I went that route, but it was always my first company that I was working for in the early '90s. It was probably 95, 96 when internet was really. It was like, okay, we need to have an internet site. So I'm like, okay.
Now you can marry your passions.
Went and talked to the president of the company going, okay, we need a website. And he's like, a what? Why do we need that? And so I was building a very basic website for the company, just showing them how we can market products, and they were still like,
Who's going to use
yeah,
it?
yeah, who's gonna use it? Whatever else. Then 5 years later, of course, they've got a catalog up online. They've got everything online.
Sure.
And so then that's where basically, as I was working for a nonprofit, I mean, we were marketing professional development for CPAs all over the country, and they needed a website to do that. So I was like, okay, this is where we can use, and it's basically a combination. I mean, to me, the internet is marketing. I mean, it's how you sell things and everything. So it's kind of a blend. That's kind of how I made my transition, and it's been technology ever since.
It is astonishing how fast the world has changed in technology. I mean, I went to Michigan State in 1995. That's when I started as a freshman. And one of their big sales pitches was you get a free email address if you come here. That was for those listening, like 1995 wasn't that long ago, okay? I might get a little defensive of this, okay? Might be dealing with a midlife crisis. Just deal with it, okay? So, but it wasn't that long ago, and now, email addresses are easier to come by than clean water. So I don't know.
I mean, my son was born in 2000, and he doesn't know anything without technology, without cell phones. He has no idea what a cassette tape is or a. I mean, there's just so many things that.
Yeah. My 8-year-old last year, so she was 7, said to me, "Daddy, how old were you when you got your first cell phone?" I said, 22. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah. I started dating your mom, and she wanted to know where I was, and I was coaching at the time. You never know when practice gets done, and she wanted to know where. So yeah, and I wanted to keep her, so I got a cell phone.
Yeah.
And then she looked at me and she's like, "So did you have a flip phone beforehand?" Like, actually, it was a flip phone. Was my first phone. So yeah, they just like the sphere of reference. So yes, and Charlotte, if you're listening, you're still not getting a cell phone. So yeah, try. You don't need to bother trying. Okay, so you were at the State Department. Tell me what did you like about your job there? What was the cool part about working there?
Just helping districts. I've always been a person who loves to help out people.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to go across the state, find out what everybody's doing, find new ways of using technology.
Any cool things stand out?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's all kinds of. I mean, I can geek out real easy.
Go for
it. There's quite a few. There's a big difference between having technology there, and then having technology really integrated into education.
Yeah.
There is so much content, so many resources that are out there online. I am digital all the way. I don't believe in paper. Paper to me is a ancient technology that go away. So having textbooks, I mean, one of the things, I mean, I'm for getting rid of these big, heavy textbooks that pretty much are outdated by the time they are printed, and then yet schools hang on to them for 10 years. I mean, I have the stories of the people who are still teaching a history book that the last president was Clinton or whatever it might have been because they're using that old of a textbook, and it's just like,
that's not cool.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I still like the tactile feel of a paper book, but I do get you that textbooks are, I mean, they're expensive, and there's so much open source of it, information now available.
I mean, everything's online. I mean,
yeah.
And my sons, I've got one son who he'll when it comes to reading books, he wants a Kindle. He's on his Kindle app reading books, and I've got one of my 13-year-olds who wants paper.
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on what you're used to. To me, I mean, I've had an iPad since you could have an iPad, and I carry around 50 books on it or whatever, and just being able to have whatever I want there whenever I need it, and then I switch to my phone and I've got the same content. And it's always there. To me, paper's kind of obsolete, passe, whatever word you want to use. And then once you move to technology, I mean, even talking about books, I mean, if you've ever been on a Kindle book, now you have access to where it gives you more content. You can look up the characters, find out their biography or whatever it is, and find out if they're mentioned within the book. You can easily search the book if you're reading digitally,
Yeah.
and find content. So
I do that quite a bit.
there
using
are a
my
lot
Kindle.
of
Yeah.
a lot of once you bring technology, and that's the same thing with classroom. I mean, if you've got a textbook, all you've got is a paper textbook, and you're learning about something science related. That's kind of where I look to. It's kind of boring. I mean, our kids. I mean, I'm very much against the let's sit in a row, read content to learn. I mean, there's so much interactive content where instead of having a paper description of a scientific experiment showing the different stages, actually having technology. First of all, I mean, there's PhET, P-H-E-T. It's something at the University of Colorado where they do all kinds of physics simulations online.
Wow.
And so instead of just looking at a textbook and looking at pictures, you go online, you've got your little physics area, and you can change
think that's
things
cool.
and whatever else. And I mean, to me, that's just much more engaging.
Yeah. I
than
remember when I
reading text.
first heard project-based learning, because that's really what you're talking about, right? Is applied learning and,
Yeah.
and projects
that's-
and things like that. And I remember I was helping out my grandpa on a construction site, and I was taking geometry, and I remember I knew what the Pythagorean theorem was, but I didn't understand how it applied. And he handed me the code book, and he said, "Hey, we're building a wall, and we need a window here. According to the code book, how big does the window have to be?" That's the Pythagorean theorem, right? So it gives you the measurements, and then I had to figure out where did I lay out the wall, because he had the blueprints, but he wouldn't show them to me because he's a jerk. So, yeah, if you're listening, Grandpa. But yeah, that's when now I understand why this is important, right? And and now I had a mental model for understanding the formula, right?
Yeah, there's so much. I mean,
I could have gotten the questions right on a test. It just wouldn't actually apply in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're at the State Department, and I think you brought up another important concept. Prior to coming here and working at the Research Center, I also worked in technology. And one of the things that I always like to point out is I worked for the federal government. And so we don't buy technology because it's cool. We buy technology because we have a mission, and we want to further our mission.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's,
I think schools, and I understand, look, we've got unfair expectations for schools, but I think one of the traps we can fall into in working with schools is let's buy technology because it's cool.
Yeah.
Or it's, everyone else
Oh,
is
it's cool,
doing it.
or the district next door has it, so we've got to do it.
Yeah. And then we'll figure out what to do with it later, right? Which is a really good way to build, shelves in the corner, or, a good place to put other stuff on top of.
Right.
Technologies, we really need to think about the technology and how that's going to further our understanding. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Apple, and Apple pointed out, look, the iPad can be used for flashcards, but flashcards on an iPad are just flashcards,
Right.
right? Not that should be, should prevent you from doing it if that's maybe a way of introducing the technology, but like the iPad should be used for sort of what you're talking about, right? Like for connecting to things outside of a traditional classroom or to new resources and new ways of learning and things.
Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, again, I mean, like you said, technology is a way. I mean, if you want to start with digital worksheets, well, that at least gets the technology being used. But you've got to go beyond that.
Yep.
One of the things I've been promoting at the State Department is SAMR, is one of the models for technology integration. It's an acronym, SAMR.
Okay.
Starts out at substitution, where you're basically just taking, instead of that paper, kids doing an essay, instead of writing it on paper, they're typing it on a computer. That's substitution. You're doing the exact same thing. You're just using technology to help you do that. There are, of course, benefits of doing that. Having it on a computer, make copies easy and everything else. Next is, okay, let's see if I can get SAMR in. Substitution. Oh my gosh, modification or redefinition. What's A? Oh, I've forgotten the A. But basically, there's two. The S and the A are basically below the line. It's basically just taking doing a little bit
Kind
different.
of replacing what you're doing, but really not changing anything.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's
Is that
basically
adaptive?
and then the way they
I've
substitution
seen
augmentation. It's augmentation.
augmentation.
Thank
That's
you,
what
thank
it
you.
is.
Yeah,
There we go.
augmentation,
There we go.
and that's basically what they use as an examples like Google Docs.
Okay.
Okay, now whereas substitution was just using a word processor, not doing much. Using Google Docs is augmentation. You're basically still just typing a letter.
But now you have at least some interactive nature.
You
to
could have where teachers commenting or other students are commenting, and yeah, there's a little bit of interactive activity to it. If you go above the line, it's modification, and basically saying, okay, well, instead of doing just a paper, let's do a blog post. Doing it online, now you're opening it up to the world, and it allows people around the world to comment, see what you're doing, everything else. Then the top being redefinition is basically saying, well, why are we even typing? Maybe instead of typing, you're actually creating a movie. You're
YouTube
doing
video or
something
Yeah.
else. So it was a book report that you're originally typing. Now instead, you're acting out things and creating a movie, whatever it might be.
Okay.
And just raising it to where you're using that technology to truly help you learn whatever the subject is that you're learning.
Cool.
And so,
Okay. So, all kinds of questions I want to ask you. So,
yeah. There's
Well, I
one
guess-
other,
yeah,
let me,
go
let,
ahead.
us say one other thing I want to say that you were kind of talking about too is what school districts are doing where they just go out and buy technology.
yeah.
And I mean, then they hand it to the teacher and say, hey, you've now got technology, use it. One of the things.
Well, at least teachers have plenty of planning time and lots of resources and things like that, right?
yeah.
He said facetiously.
Yeah, my wife just threw something at
Yes.
There's 4 steps when I talk to districts. There's 4 things you've got to do before you go from textbooks to one-to-one if you're looking at doing one-to-one and moving that way. First of all, you've got to have the infrastructure to handle that technology. I have dealt with teachers who call up and talk about, yeah, we've got a classroom set of Chromebooks, but if we all try to connect at the same time,
Internet goes down.
yeah, internet goes down, it's too slow, nobody can do anything. So yeah, first thing is you've got to get internet there. You've got money available through federal and state through E-rate and OUSF. There's money to do, but that's the first step, getting the broadband there. Next step is getting, well, and really this is probably a first step. I mean, you've got to have your why. You really got to have the why am I
Yeah.
doing this in the first place? What's the goal? You need to have meetings with all of your staff and determine where our goal is, where we're trying to get there. So first, second step. Third step is give the teachers PD on how to use the technology. Don't just hand a technology class card of iPads to a teacher and just say go for it. I mean, you've got to give them some tools of some ideas, some PD on how to actually learn how to use that in instruction and actually integrate it. And then finally, you get the devices in the student's hands, and then you're ready. So
Cool.
there's a process. It's not just about go grab technology and go.
No, yeah, and I think some listeners may be familiar. We have the Oklahoma Educational Technology Trust here, the OETT,
Yes.
and I think they do a pretty good before you can apply for grants from them, they do well with the goal that they want to see that technology
Right.
actually
Used
used.
effectively.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And I think that's quite brilliant. But yeah, and we're also here. I mean, let me volunteer up your services, Kurt.
Yes.
I mean, this is the type of stuff that we hope our members will rely on us for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Right from the start, how can we help you start thinking about the why? How can we figure out, do you have the infrastructure available, and then how do you train your staff? So,
Yep.
cool. So why the heck would you leave the State Department? And we love, we work very closely with the State Department.
Yes.
So this isn't
yes.
a trash
And that's the
session,
thing.
but
Yeah, I love the people I work with. That's one of the things. Miss all the people there, but my goal at the State Department, I was basically kind of overseeing the entire state, 500 plus districts.
Yep.
It's hit and miss. I go out to visit districts here, there, all across the state, really looking to get more involved with schools. So learning what OPSRC is doing,
Yeah.
fewer schools, looking to really help those schools. And so
It's also the free snacks here, right?
oh yes, yes, definitely,
Of
absolutely.
course, yeah.
And the cool office space. So.
We're very fortunate for cool office space and the fact that, well, I'm not that
No,
fortunate that there's snacks because then I get in trouble when I eat them. But hey,
eh,
Well, so I remember when we first met, and I don't know if it was really an interview; it was more of a conversation. And you talked about, look, I want to be able to focus on innovation. What does that mean to you, and what are some ways that you're hoping to work with schools?
um, well, like I said, it's really, I mean, and I've been to a lot of schools. Some schools are just doing the digital worksheets. They're just doing the basics of using the technology in a substitution manner. I really want to get my goal. My goal has always been focused on the student because I've got 3 boys in public education. I mean, I want them to enjoy education, not dread going to school.
Amen.
And there's just so many ways that technology can help do that. Make it more meaningful to them. I mean, I get asked by my kids as I'm helping them with homework, why are we learning this? And a lot of times that's missing. It's whatever the textbook says they need to be learning, and they're just learning how to do this math problem without any concept of why. So my goal is really to help, and I mean, technology is just a tool. It's just one of those things that brings that to the kids today. I mean, it makes it more interesting for them, brings those resources, and so I'm really looking at helping schools truly use the technology in an innovative way to help students learn. One of the things that the U.S. Department of Ed always promotes is anytime, anywhere learning, and that's why technology. I mean, everybody's got a cell phone, whatever it might be. I pick on fellow coworkers and everything else. Whenever we're out doing something, we've all got cell phones in our pockets, whatever it might be, and somebody's talking about, oh, I wonder about this or I wonder about that. Well, don't wonder. You've got a technology tool in your hand. Find out about it.
Yeah, sometimes my wife will do that, and when I'm in a particularly salty mood, which happens every once in a while, I'll say, it would be great if they could come up with a tool where you could search for things and get answers.
And it was portable enough that you could carry it around in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or we're lost, and I'm like, maybe someone should develop an app that can give you directions and tell you where to drive. So, then I duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, let me ask you to throw you a curveball here. How do we balance technology, right? So, and I asked that, we've actually just recorded another podcast where we were talking with someone who's working with Hope Squad and dealing with teen suicide. And he pointed out that one of the linkages that they see in research is teen depression and suicide rates can often be linked to how much time is spent online.
On technology.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
To me, it's about how they're using the technology and why. I mean, I don't. Regarding that conversation, I don't know what it was about, but I would bet it's a lot of social media.
Yep.
Where people compare themselves, and if you've ever heard this thing about social media, a lot of people just put their A side on social media. It's only the best stuff.
Yep.
They don't tell you about the other things that are going on. So you look at social media and you think, oh, this is all positive. Oh, well, my life's not that positive. So
I didn't realize I had so many happy friends
Yeah.
until I had Facebook.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's I don't know. I mean, the Luddite in me and the terrified dad in me would really like to, move to a world where, the internet doesn't exist and everything is perfect. If you find that place, I'd like to know about it. But,
Yeah, well, to me, I mean, it's all about how you use the tools, how you
Yep.
use the technology, and
Yep.
if you've got, I mean, I had a time way back when I was trying to get people to create websites, getting organizations to create websites, and they didn't want to because they thought it was evil, and it's like, well, no, it's just a tool.
And it's
If
new. It's
yeah,
new and
it's
scary.
new. I mean, if it's just a bunch of people creating horrible content, well, yes, but if you're not out there creating the good content to balance it or to make even more better content than the horrible content, then yeah, you're letting it go. But it's all about it. I mean, technology is just a tool. It's all about what you do with it. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about screen time, and again, I don't think it's the screen itself. I think it's what are you doing with that screen. Are you accessing educational content? Are you accessing? I mean, you can go dark
Lots of nooks and
places.
crannies on the internet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you can end up going down all kinds of rabbit holes.
Are you trying to
and
judge me for my time on ESPN.com? I feel I'm being judged right now, Kurt.
Well, since I am the technology director, I have access to all kinds of information.
Yeah, there
but-
you go. Yeah. I'm gonna have to find a way to shield that. So, and I promise not to use this. Well, I may be lying, but in your review in the future. But look into the future, 6 months from now, a year from now. What are the things you're hoping to be able to say? These are the things that I was able to do working with schools, and this is really kind of a plug to schools that either are members or should be joining as members. And so,
Absolutely.
what are the things that you want to be able to say you're doing with schools, and the projects that you're going to point to and say, look at the success we're having?
That's a tough one. It's all about measuring how useful the technology is. Something I haven't really talked about yet is, I mean, I believe in data. If using technology without data behind it is, I mean, you don't know how good the technology is if you can't track the data as far as our kids learning more. Are they more engaged? And so it's getting those measurements out there and making sure that we're measuring the effectiveness of the technology. So I really want to help those districts, especially those districts who don't have much technology, just show them the benefits of having it and how kids will be more engaged, how they'll be, I mean, one of my things with my 3 boys and with all students is just getting them engaged and wanting to learn. I mean, the goal is to make it student-directed learning, so where they want to learn something, they have a passion, finding that passion, and using technology to learn more about that.
What are the So we have one way of measuring student academic performance and growth are state tests, right? And I've got my mixed opinions on it.
So do
As a
I.
dad, I've
and
changed my mind
since
on
I
that.
formerly
Yeah.
worked at the state, and I was also involved with the report card,
Yep.
I have concerns about that.
Yeah.
Um,
My
and-
my 8-year-old just went through state testing for the first time, and I really didn't like the lead up to the test and the amount of drill and kill that I saw my daughter, because she loves school or loved
Yeah.
it, and then for 2 weeks or 3 weeks really didn't love it, and that bothered me a lot.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, there's
So we get on that rabbit hole, but I mean,
Yeah.
we also subsidize the use of the MAP assessment, which is a computer-based assessment. You give them 3 times that can measure academic growth. Have you seen what are other good ways that schools can be measuring, in an effective manner, but maybe not an onerous manner?
Yeah. Well, and I believe in, I mean, the problem with state testing, I mean, it's only once a year. I do believe in
Correct.
formative assessments. You need an assessment all throughout the year just to know where they're going. I mean, we have state standards. This is what our students are supposed to be learning at these different grades. So I think we need to be aware of those standards and be able to track where students are based on those standards. So whether it's math, I mean, are they reaching, and I don't know the standards well enough to state numbers or anything, but are they reaching this 4th grade math standard? So being able to look, there are tools out there that allow you to track achievement by standards, so that teachers can have a screen that basically says, okay, I want to look at Jenny, where does she stand as far as the 4th grade math standards, and it shows what she's mastered, what she hasn't mastered, where she needs work. And I mean, there's, I don't know if I should be plugging products or anything, but there's
Sure, why not?
there's products out there that bring it all together, basically, and give students and parents access that allows. Okay, so it's multiplication tables that a student needs to learn. Well, here's some resources online that allow that student to learn that skill.
Things like
that
Khan
standard.
Academy or
Khan
something.
Academy, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
different tools. So, but then giving the parents and students access so they know where they are. So you've got a fourth grader. Here's the 20 math standards they need to be learning. They've got these 5 mastered. They need improvement on these 5. So giving that student or parent access to know which standards they need to cover, and then giving them resources so that they can go, hey, Jenny, go work with these resources that'll help you reach this standard.
Yeah, there's so many options out there. I think part of it is how do we filter that. I'll give one
Yes.
example we had from the College Board. I forget the person's name is here, but he was on the podcast and he talked about how College Board has worked with Khan Academy. Separately, Khan Academy's also worked with MAP. We mentioned earlier the NWA MAP, and so you can get your MAP score. You can plug that into Khan Academy. It will give you then work tailored to your
Lessons
strengths and weaknesses.
That is perfect.
And then same thing at the PSAT level, which is the test used for national merit scholarships. You can take a pre-PSAT. You can get a score. You can then plug that into Khan Academy. Now, primarily their material is focused on math, though they are expanding out those resources as well into other subjects. And so then, I like to joke, but not entirely a joke. I kind of thank God that this wasn't available for my parents because they'd have, I'm not sure I'd have slept. You can do one more session before you go to bed. But my parents believed in hard work as a religion, I think. So, which is good. But and so there's so many of those resources that are available for tailoring.
Absolutely.
So.
And there's also adaptive software like Dreambox Learning and other things where it measures where the child is and puts them at a certain level, and then they move at their own pace, and it learns as they move along. They've mastered this skill, so it moves them up automatically to the next skill and next standard, and you just keep going. So
and this is what's cool about what I'm excited about with the Resource Center, and I really hope that as we work with schools, we can realize this is. We don't have a dog in these fights, right? Like, we've got we do subsidized maps. So, we guess we do have some preferences. We don't have a profit motive on this stuff. So, we can actually give schools what we think is best for kids. And so, hopefully schools can rely on us, especially, smaller schools that don't have a tech director. Or one that's got a tech director that's wearing 12 other hats, because we know that happens, that they'll reach out and we can help find those tools, and then can also help with the implementation side of it so that, we're not just throwing them to the wolves.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
cool.
I'm the tech director for our members. Any help I can provide that's what I'm here for.
Cool. And, for listeners that are out there, if this has sparked ideas, the one other thing that I always like to say is we're humble enough to know we don't know everything. And if there are good ideas that are out there, we want to know about them.
Absolutely.
In the best world, we're going to be self-aware enough to admit that humility, and then try and seek out what folks are doing well, and then shine a light on that as well.
That's one thing I did at the state is basically finding who's doing it right and letting people know. And schools are good about opening up their schools to others to come visit and see how things are working. So.
I mean, I realized as a teacher, and actually my whole career, it's a lot easier to steal other people's good ideas than it is to come up with your own. So, if I was smart enough to do that, I'd do it. But
no need to reinvent the wheel if somebody's already doing something. So.
Exactly. Well, anything else that we haven't touched on today?
I don't think so.
Cool.
Just technology is a useful tool. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, Kurt. And
thank you.
If folks need to reach out on our website, you can find Kurt's email address. That's opsrc.net. We always like to remind our faithful listeners on the podcast, if you're on iTunes, you can go and you can rate us there. We're sure we don't need to tell folks it's a 5-star rating. We know that if you've listened this far, you're in love with the show. So, but that always helps us get the word out to more people. So. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you.